In this episode of the RV Small Talk podcast, we get a little bit, nostalgic.
Teary-eyed, if you will.
Yeah, we think back to the good old days, the early days of families going out trailering for holidays, family events, Memorial Day.
Itty-bitty style.
Tiny style. It's such a vintage memory. It brings a tear to my eye.
I already said it was going to be tearful. Boom.
Hey, I have an idea. Let's talk about teardrop trailers.
That seems to be a theme with where we're going with this. So let's talk about the history of traveling with teardrops.
Welcome to RV Small Talk, where we talk about lightweight trailers and truck campers and the people, places, and adventures that go along with them. I'm PJ.
I'm Lindsay.
And I'm Clint. We're your hosts from Princess Craft RV.
It's getting hot outside.
Warming up, yes.
People are starting to take vacations, some holidays coming up. It got us thinking about, the history of the teardrop trailer and people taking vacations.
Yeah, I think that people always have this kind of throwback classic notion of some of these holidays, whether it be Labor Day or Memorial Day or Veterans Day. It's family time, and there's this, you get this, old stank on it. We do a barbecue or hot dogs or we do fireworks, and it feels like you're connected way back. Do you? I do.
Yeah,
okay.
you go to Grandma's lake house and eat watermelon and pecans.
Yeah. There's something, some old stank to it, and I feel like the teardrop trailer, you can't
has some
help.
old stank.
It does. So you got to keep those windows open. No, air it out. No, I think that the teardrop trailer has a lot of that kind of thing to it, and camping is oftentimes a part of many families' plans, or a picnic.
Mom, you're old. Did you have a teardrop trailer?
Wow.
I did not. Thank you. But we did have the first year of the Volkswagen camper van.
Bus?
Yes. It was a camper van. Come on. It wasn't a bus.
Did it have the poppy top?
Nope. That came later.
Oh, okay. Well, but we're talking about teardrops right now.
Yes, not Volkswagen camper vans.
No, that'll be a different episode.
Okay.
We're definitely doing that episode.
So teardrop camping trailers, if you go way, way back, people have been, of course, camping most of the time out of necessity for all of human existence.
Like what were the cavemen's teardrop trailers? Like what did they look like?
Caves.
Like square wheels?
I don't know. I'm going to go consult that great historical factual show, The Flintstones. Find out.
But
12-volt power only because they couldn't make fire yet.
Well, why does this feel so nostalgic? Because really, the teardrop trailer, it was popular, came out really like in the 30s.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. But it only slept two people. So why does family camping remind you of a teardrop?
Well, because even before teardrop trailers were around, there were tents, and everyone from the beginning understood mom and dad get the trailer.
Yeah.
And the kids
sleep outside?
Yes.
Yeah.
That has never been argued.
Yeah.
That's the way.
Yeah.
I thought it was mom got the trailer. Everybody else just figure it out.
I'm sure that happened a certain percentage of the time as well.
That's true.
That's certainly how my trailer would be.
Well, I would imagine, people wanting to go camping with their families, right after World War II. People are like, the economy's kind of looking pretty good. People want to go travel and see America. Yeah. So I can imagine cars back then probably didn't have a lot of they
didn't have the
towing power.
Yeah, a lot of them had for their size.
Power?
Yeah, for their size, they may have had decent enough torque, but they didn't really go with a whole lot of horsepower.
So is that why teardrops started, because they were small?
I think that's part of the elements.
Well, they started in the 30s, so cars didn't have the oomph, so it was tough to tow anything too big. But then cars got better. We had the war, and then there was all this surplus materials.
Yeah.
And guess what? Airplane wings make really cool teardrop trailers.
Yeah.
And
the aluminum and whatnot.
Old tires from Jeeps.
Yeah.
That, are salvageable, make really good teardrop tires.
I mean, who knew that would really blossom the teardrop market.
And you think about the way people utilize their time, it was very, very different. We're talking about a time when AM radio really still ruled the airwaves. We're talking about a time when there really wasn't something that had us glued in front of, well, a TV set, if you will, and right there in your living room so much of the time. So hobbies were different. People were more hands-on. More people were working with their hands in that day and age. So it was a very different lifestyle, mindset, know-how, can-do kind of way of being.
So was a teardrop trailer something you could go to someplace and buy, or you just had to make one?
It was a do-it-yourselfer thing for the
Largely.
most part.
Or if you knew someone who was doing it for themselves, you might be able to pay them to do one for yourself.
Again.
There you go. That's certainly what I would do. Well, there was Popular Mechanics, I know, had one. Was there others?
I think that a few of them came out, and it was usually in those publications. Again, it was a time when people were reading, and a lot of them had this background in the military or in the war effort or manufacturing.
In the making things.
Right.
People made things back then.
Yes.
And they fixed things because you didn't throw everything away. It's kind of crazy. Hard to believe.
Which is a neat place for a camping format style way of living, philosophy, if you will, to come about way back with this can-do know-how. And I think that carries over to the teardrops of today.
Well, that's probably true. A lot of people make their own teardrops today.
Yeah.
Well, and just the whole like minimalist attitude. Those are usually the people who probably fix things or make things themselves, even if it's not an entire trailer, you know?
Okay, but let's be fair. All right.
I refuse. I'm not going to be fair.
No. We're going to be
Unfair.
fair.
Okay, speaking of fair, I had to try to explain to Simone this morning, my daughter, 3 years old, what the word fair meant. And it was really hard.
Did you just tell her to look at the mirror?
Right? Poor girl. No, it's just, it came up in conversation and she just kept screaming, it's not fair. And I said, well, do you even know what fair means? And then I tried to explain to her what fair meant. How would you explain to a 3-year-old what fair means?
It's really hard because you end up explaining equal.
Yes.
And that's not the same.
Exactly. So I kept saying everybody has the same thing. And then I was like, no, that's not fair.
You can't teach a 3-year-old that.
I know. So I was like, okay, I don't know how to say this. So anyway, side note, if anybody knows how to explain the word fair to a 3-year-old, you just let me know.
You need to contact Lindsay because we're lost.
I think it's easier to explain unfair than fair.
Okay. All right.
Yeah?
I'll ponder on that. Let's get back to teardrops.
Fair.
Side note. Whoop.
Okay. So I think that there's something about all RV categories that really captures our imagination and attention, but nothing quite the same way as an old school format teardrop. It's easy to stare at them and wonder about the people who would utilize them and go places and camp in them.
It is kind of like a wondrous like club to be in, to know about teardrops or to be able to build teardrops or to camp in a teardrop.
Right.
There is something magical about that group of people.
And to have that vintage thing about them. I mean, you look at a teardrop and you're like, man, it just looks good behind something. Let's say anything 1950s era vehicle or earlier. That's actually really, that kind of gets my imagination going.
Well, and because they were mostly, just made in people's garages or yards, a lot of people would model their teardrops after their car.
Yeah.
So we're talking, there were like really ugly, boxy, square, metally ones. And then there was shiny ones with like the rounded fenders and the drop low and the hubcaps and the, they're really
pieces of art, some of them.
Yeah. And like you said, putting it behind the car, especially if it matches or has the same feeling.
Yeah.
They look so
if I made
cool.
one, it would not be a work of art. It would be kind of scary.
No, but you don't have to make one anymore.
No, I can buy one, but there probably was a whole range of them. There was the people that
because they're building
maybe
a garage.
weren't as good, and then the people that were so skilled. I'm fascinated sometimes because after World War II, everybody came back, started families. everybody wanted to have everything. That was when everybody said, I want, a blender and 2 cars in the driveway and all these things.
Yeah, still.
So they started
that never
building
stopped.
bigger trailers.
Yeah. Well, you went from teardrops to these hand cans or whatever.
Hand cams.
Canned
hams. Yes.
I
There
am
you
what
go.
I am.
Aye.
Well, and cars,
And cars got stronger.
got stronger.
They did. They
They
were
pumped
able
it
to,
up.
Spinach.
Yeah.
They could pull it.
They could tow it.
Can you tow it?
The line.
And gas was cheap.
And gas was cheap.
Super cheap. And then everybody had 2 or 3 kids and they're like, oh, well, we ought to have a bigger trailer. So they started towing bigger ones. And that's where we get the great Desi and Lucy movie.
Yeah. And that's also when you see RVs going from garage builds to manufacturing.
Yes.
Right in that time
Yes.
frame.
But people still loved the teardrop back then.
It's true.
It never
It was
disappeared.
still
Well, yeah,
out there.
now it just has like a whole nother follow. It's not the only option. That's my question here. And with all my internet research, I got distracted and never really found the answer. Is the teardrop trailer considered the first trailer? Were there trailers?
Yes.
I mean, there probably was one, but like in general, was the idea of a trailer with a bed and a kitchen a thing before the teardrop?
Yes, because that's how pioneers crossed the open plains.
That's
They're
called
called
a covered
wagons.
wagon.
which is another word for a trailer.
Between covered wagons and teardrop trailers.
But then there was a car, and then there was car camping, where you had this cool car that opened up in
but
the
I'm
back
talking about
to have
trailers.
A kitchen. Okay, but still, and then they had a drivable one that looked kind of like a paddy wagon kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
you
that
camp in
counts.
the back of that.
That counts. Okay.
So then that's, but and
Would
then
that be like your first class B or C?
yeah,
I do need to go back and listen to that podcast where we explain the difference between
Yeah, 'cause I
Class A,
forgot.
B, and C because
Oh.
somebody asked me the other day and I was like,
guys, I have
don't
so
know.
failed.
how am I supposed to remember
Agreed,
that?
because we can't remember.
There's
Oh my
so
gosh.
much stuff in this
Oh my
dome
gosh.
piece. I have to kick some stuff out in order to put more stuff in. Like the other day, I learned about. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of something random, and then I
BJ.
couldn't.
If you would carry other classes of RVs, we might know these
Maybe
things.
we would care.
Well, I would carry B vans if I could get one. So if anybody out there is listening and you would like to give me a B van that I can sell at Princess Craft, call me up.
Yeah.
Bzz.
So I don't know. Does it do the same sort of thing for you as it does for me, where you kind of think of old magazine photos of families out picnicking at
Yes.
least during holidays, Memorial Day?
Yes. And it makes you think that everything is going to be sunshine and roses and just have this beautiful family life with a little teardrop camper in the background.
Yeah. Very, very old romantic. Now, I don't want to put it all too rosy. We all know that the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way through today, you can paint a rosy picture, but it wasn't all just so. You know, glossy magazines and television shows and radio programs, radio dramas made everything sound
Radio dramas.
amazing, right?
Yes.
But I think that you can sort of distill out the romantic pieces and say that was good, even if times were not perfect in those days. Do you think that there was a waning off in the popularity of teardrops because of the advent of larger trailers and motorized, and then they started to be rediscovered in the 80s or 90s?
Well, I think what happened personally, I mean, this is not tried and true tested, but you know, everybody wanted bigger and better. And why couldn't you? Why couldn't you get bigger and better? Your car would tow it for the most part. And then we all decided we needed to cut back on gasoline, and gas got so expensive. People had to make smaller ones. But think about it. Retro clothes got kind of fashionable. And, you know, old cars. Now cars aren't just you have a junker car. It's an old vintage car that everybody thinks is cool. So why wouldn't the trailers go right along with that?
Yeah, and cars got to the point where they could tow more, so people wanted bigger trailers. Now it's the opposite. People don't want those bigger cars that use more gas. They want to tow something with the smaller cars. So the Teardrop comes back.
Right. And you think smaller trailer, it must mean a few other things that we are more socially mindful of, whether it be the environment or something like that. Smaller trailers,
the price of gas,
where you get to go, where you get to like the spots you get to fit into, and roads that you can take.
So they kind of fit the pendulum, I guess, is swinging back towards a more simple way of doing things.
It's like cell phones, but the opposite, right?
Yeah,
where they started out like super big, and then like it was so cool to have the smallest little cell phone, and now where are we?
Oh, that's right.
Bigger is better.
Tablet size.
Bigger is better. Yeah. So it's like that where like we feel like going one way is the right thing to do, and they were like, let's go back to this. This is actually way better.
Well, you got to have a point to sell, right?
Right.
This phone is so small it fits in your pocket. You won't even know it's there.
Isn't it funny how it's cool to be either conspicuous or inconspicuous with your consumption?
But never both.
It quickly crosses.
Right?
Can you ever just be conspicuous?
Can you?
I think you can in Europe.
Well,
I made Clint laugh.
Oh, wow.
It's always a good day.
Good times.
People have changed too. People aren't getting married as early. They're not having kids as early.
They're living their life.
They're going out and exploring, and they've got disposable income. So two people fit perfectly in a little teardrop, and you can travel everywhere.
Or if you really want to
be trendy,
break the mold, you can go to a square drop.
Yeah, it's true. Literally break the mold.
It's like a cube of ice. It's still got a reference to water.
That is so funny that they call them square drops. But a square drop, that's trendy too, because then you're the rugged outdoorsman.
Right.
You're not the trendy teardrop. You're the rugged outdoorsman. If you have a square drop.
Yes. Hard edges seem to be what we associate oftentimes with masculinity.
What?
Right. We think soft curves versus hard edges.
True. All right. So talking about trendy, I definitely tried to find the most expensive teardrop I could find.
Is it a Camp Inn?
It's not.
Really?
What is?
Actually, I don't really know, but from what I found out, I'm sure there's something else out there. It's the Sherpa.
Oh, okay. And that totally fits in our teardrop format?
It looks like a spaceship teardrop, but it definitely still has
a curve,
the shape of a teardrop, but with like different. It's like if a taxa made a teardrop.
So it has curve and angle.
It has curve and angle.
Oh.
Well, does teardrop have to be super small? Because there's bigger teardrop shapes.
Yeah.
Some people call something like an R-body
talking about
teardrop.
The history of the teardrop, that we need to talk about. It has curves and you can't stand up in it.
Okay.
So if you guys haven't seen this, you should look it up. It's pretty crazy looking. And I've never seen one in real life. See, it's got like a teardrop shape. Oh, I guess it pops up. Look at that thing. It's a bug.
Yeah, but that's a manly man machine.
It's still a teardrop.
Rock crawling machine.
It's a teardrop with a rack on top of it.
It looks like it's Australian too.
Of course.
But I think you've really got to differentiate between the off-road small trailers and the teardrop. The teardrop is a classic shape.
But they were largely for, I don't know, man, those early ones could go anywhere a Jeep could go. Because they were just a platform with leaf springs. Whereas there a lot of them nowadays, you're like, no, really, it needs to stick to the pavement.
So is this a teardrop? The Earth Traveler, it's 216 pounds.
Wow. I have a son who eats more than that in a week.
Is that, oh, it does pop up, see? So this just looks like a straight
well, it depends.
Coffin of the future.
Coffin of the future. Is that how they advertise it?
No, those are my words, not theirs.
Oh, good. I was a little worried.
So when I started working here, I associated my innermost core being associated Teardrop, a true teardrop, as being a small teardrop shaped trailer that you could not stand up in. And then it was kind of an associated cousin if it had the teardrop shape, but it was large enough to stand up in and have plumbing inside and whatnot. And so you could kind of get away with the gray area description. Yeah, it's a teardrop because it has a rounded front.
You're thinking like a tab.
Yeah.
Like New Camp tab.
Yeah, and people will still say teardrop, and it's only based on shape. And I'm like, but that's not the history of it. But you know what? Maybe definitions mutate over time.
Yeah, I mean, it's like definitions of anything. Like, I mean, people could just say things. These things are $40,000. I'm sorry.
Sherpa?
The Sherpa's like 35,000. These Earth Traveler teardrops are like 40,000. That's insane. This thing is tiny, but it is all windows. I mean, it's all windows all the way around, which I feel like would just be really cool to camp in. But anyway, I was trying to look up some of the extreme ones.
Yeah, very good.
Which could be a whole other.
Yes.
I think it was a whole other podcast, wasn't it?
Well,
but then some people call the ones that are larger than a tab the like an R-pod.
Yeah,
They'll call that a
An
teardrop
R-pod's not a
shape.
teardrop.
no, it's more of a jelly bean.
But some people try to sell it that way.
Yeah,
Just a bean.
it's a bean. Yeah,
It's
lima,
a bean. Like
kidney,
garbanzo.
garbanzo is a chickpea.
It's a chickpea. Chick, chick.
And if you don't maintain your tires, it becomes hummus on the road.
Oh,
Yeah. That was a good one.
Air high five.
All right. Well, before we all start crying over here, we should wrap up this teardrop
Yeah. So,
discussion. There we go. That's the word I was
there we
looking
go.
for.
So,
Discussion.
There we go. A podcast about teardrop campers. Maybe a little bit of nostalgia on it. Maybe some history.
Definitely no silliness, though.
None whatsoever. But whatever you're doing this holiday weekend, this Memorial Day weekend, we hope that you are able to relax, have a safe, wonderful time, and that you enjoy yourself. So get out there, explore, adventure, check out the wilds.
Relax. Reflect. Do something you love. And then tell us about it.
Questions at rvsmalltalk.com.
Or join us on Facebook at RV Small Talk Community.
We like it. We love you. And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.